Blues Clues was a lesson that I was really excited to start teaching, mainly because it was the first lesson in this compositional unit that I personally created by myself. Um, this group of kids, like I've said in the past couple of video blogs, are just an amazing group. They're very mature for their age, and they're um, conceptually far beyond where they should be at this point in an eighth grade general music class. So the Blues Clues lesson obviously plays to those advantages and would have to be adapted to a even another eighth grade class, never mind a seventh grade or high school class. Um, I thought the lesson went very well. The highlights, of course, being once again with this group of students, the competitive game, What Makes Me Blue, and as you can see through the lesson plan, students describe the different musical components that make each song that I played in the beginning of every class a blues, stylistically blues song. By the end of the lesson, once the students got a better grip on what these stylistic characteristics were, we actually had open debates and arguments about whether these pieces were rock, pop, blues infused rock, jazz, um, and there was a couple points where we actually had a divided factioned classroom where we kind of came up with that postmodern answer of they have both qualities, but maybe it's more of this than it is that genre. So I thought that went very well. And of course, the other highlight was actually the homework assignment, if you could believe it or not. Um, the students really liked the idea of the music map website, which puts the center artist, whoever you type in, as the center of a web of related artists around him, with the closest related being closest to that artist and the further away being less like the artist than the ones closer to it. Um, the students had a lot of fun with that homework assignment, and I had given them a list of about 10 or 12 appropriate blues artists, some very much on the traditional blues end of the spectrum, and some others like the White Stripes or Jimi Hendrix that are blue-based rock and roll or blue-based pop. Um, and we actually had some really interesting results from that. One student, Bobby, found that and was slightly appalled and a little bit offended if you read his blog post that Amy Winehouse was so closely related to what he considered one of the best jazz and blues artists of all time, Ray Charles. So his blog response was very adamant about how he was offended by this and that he didn't feel Amy Winehouse's music at all, and it was a little bit offensive to Ray Charles to even associate with him in the slightest bit. Never mind right next to each other on the music map web. So what I did was take his response. I downloaded and converted the school appropriate version of Amy Winehouse's video for Rehab, which has a 12-bar blues progression as the chorus. And I brought in the song, and much to Bobby's chagrin, I played it, and we discussed why possibly this could be related to a Ray Charles genre type piece. And eventually we came up with the 12 blues progression, as well as the fact that there's horns in the instrument section and some of the harmonic rhythms used, and as well as the lyrics. And the students kind of saw this idea of if blues is in all this music that we've talked about that we actually listen to, is it still blues or is it something else? And what other variables are playing into that decision? And that led us to a topic of really deep philosophical depth, um, including socio-political aspects of the music industry. For example, Amy Winehouse's or Jack White from the White Stripes outright statements that yes, they have this type of music and they do purposely hide it in order to make money. Um, uh, and I found an article to back that up, and we cited some sources, and the students were able to see that article after I posted it on Ning, um, as well as the issue of race and race authenticity, which I thought was really interesting to talk about with a bunch of eighth graders who were the majority of the class is either white or Asian. There's no African American students. There's no Hispanic students. So it was an interesting perspective and racial situation with in the context of the classroom to talk about a delicate issue like that. So I thought those were the highlights. There were a couple things that I may change next time I teach this lesson. Once again, keeping in mind that this class is very far ahead where they should be. Um, there was a little bit of issue with the idea of the blue notes, the lower third and fifth scale degrees. I think that could have been cleared off if we had just a little bit more time, and they would have been absolutely fine with it. The other thing was we had the students use the keyboard mat and keyboards to figure out the chords that they would be using in the progressions. And I had the idea of perhaps having the students peer share and get together with xylophones and figure out the notes in each chord for the progression in C major that way. However, I think that the keyboard ended up benefiting us because later on in the compositional stage of the perform step of the lesson plan, rather than using the loop, we had the students play in their harmony for their compositions. That way they could choose whether they wanted the Bo Diddley rhythm or the shave and a haircut rhythm. And I think that in conjunction with a section of the lesson that we added in from Eileen, which was a short lesson on chordal inversions in order to play them easier on the keyboard, I think that really helped the addition of musicianship within this project. Speaking of the rhythmic harmonies, this lesson provided me with a lot of opportunity for teachable moments, which is something that I've been looking for in my practicum experience, simply because I am pretty well off at writing the lessons, but there are those moments where something can be completely derailed. And as a creative learner who is often the one derailing those lessons, I need to make sure I am comfortable and able to take those detours and make something valuable of them. And I think this lesson provided a lot of those instances. For instance, in this next clip, there was several questions about the Bo Diddley rhythm and the shave and a haircut rhythm, and some of the kids weren't exactly getting the difference between the two or how they were related. So I quickly, while they were setting up on their computers, did this activity with them.
Opening up Mixcraft, we're going to do a little experiment here. I had some questions about the Bo Diddley rhythm, for those of you who are putting harmonic rhythm into your composition. Some people are getting confused with the Bo Diddley rhythm and two bits and a haircut. So while your computers are loading, this half of the room, Bobby, Ryan, and Shane over. We're going to start doing a shave and a haircut through bits, alright? So, bum, 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 bum. Keep going. Okay, now forget all the melody. We're just gonna do it on one pitch. Keep that going. This half of the room. We're gonna start doing the Bo Diddley beat. Think of, if anyone knows the song by Bill Holiday or the Rolling Stones, Not Fade Away. Nobody? You know the song Magic Bone. Emily knows it. All right. Bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 bum ba-dum bum. Okay. Keep going. I'm going to count down from 4, and we're going to switch parts. So take a good listen. Oh, I hear you guys going up to this rhythm now. How does ours go? Bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, 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 ba-dum, bum. Around Bo Diddley. Bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. 2 more times. Now switch to shave and haircut. Bum, 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 bum. So we get the difference a little bit better now?
Yes.
Yep. Do we see how they're related?
Yes.
Bum, 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 bum is bum, 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 bum. Just less notes. They do have a Bo Diddley rhythm on Mixcraft. Unfortunately, it's not in the same progression that we're using. But because we know how it sounds, you can play it in in your harmonic structure that you're creating. So